What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Late Night Show with Dr. Kojo. We have a very special guest, Dr. Naidoo. She's a nutritional psychiatrist and a good friend of mine, and she's one of the inspirations that I've had as I've been working through my diet. And I've been cutting out a lot of processed foods and things like that to help out with my own ADHD and my mental health. So she's one of the inspirations behind that, and she's the author of a book called "This Is Your Brain on Food." So we'll talk a little bit about the book, and I'll bring her on in just a second. But like I like to do with every show, I want to go ahead and let you all know where I'm checking in from, and then want you all to use the comment section to let me know where you all are checking in from. So as y'all know, I'm checking in from sunny Los Angeles, California, and I would love to know where you all are checking in from tonight. We have somebody from Ontario, Canada, in the house. Catherine, thank you so much. Uh, Alana, I appreciate that. Buffalo in the house. Georgia, Lawrence, Kansas, Tennessee, Connecticut. Okay, so we have people from all over. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Birmingham, Orlando. Awesome. So I'm not gonna keep you all waiting. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in our very special guest, Dr. Naidoo, and I'll let her introduce herself. Dr. Umar, how are you doing?
I'm good, Dr. Kojo. It's always great to see you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I appreciate you coming on this platform to once again talk about food and mental health.
I'm always happy to do that. And I appreciate the fact that you raise so much awareness on your platform around mental stigma and just being able to be in touch with our emotions so that we can get the help that we need. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. And for the people who are watching at home and they don't know who you are, maybe they've seen you on my Instagram collab before. I know a few people have, but for the new people who are primarily on Facebook, would you care to introduce yourself?
Sure, and thank you. So I'm a nutritional psychiatrist. I founded and direct the only academic clinic in the United States at Mass General Hospital in Boston. And I really came to this work because of the nexus of my personal interests, which became academic interests in not only psychiatry, training at Harvard, but studying to be a professional chef. You can see I love the kitchen, and studying nutrition because it's a real gap in our medical education. So putting those together seemed like a good opportunity to help people find other means to also feel better without excluding the use of, as you know, the very important medications as well as therapies.
Awesome, awesome. And we're going to be talking about the foods to boost your mental health. And for those of y'all who don't have the book, it's called "This Is Your Brain on Food" by Naidoo, MD, right here. This fancy book right here. So go ahead and check out the book if you don't have it. And one thing I like about the book, like right when you open it, one of the first lines is, "Did you know that blueberries can help you cope with PTSD? That salami can cause depression, and that boosting vitamin D intake can help your anxiety." I really like that. Can you talk a little bit about why you decided to place that like at the front of the book?
Right. It's an interesting thing, Dr. Kojo. We might take a pill for a headache quite often, but we don't really think about it, right? What are we doing? We taking a pill out of a bottle, maybe it's Tylenol, maybe it's something else. You're drinking some water, and you forget about it, and you hope your headache goes away. But we really don't put those two organs together. We swallow the pill, it goes to our gut, it gets metabolized, but where's it acting? Usually on our brain. Somewhere in that tissue, there's a headache. So I think what I was trying to really grab people's attention with is this is what nutritional psychiatry is bringing forward, this connection between the brain and the gut, and the fact that how we eat actually is also about how we feel. And our food is a very powerful tool in how we can either feel worse or try to feel better over time. It's not a quick fix and it's not overnight. So we have to be patient with these changes, but really the goal is learn those little tips and start to implement them slowly and steadily in your life.
That's awesome. I love that. And we spoke a little bit off camera about this, but on page 34, we talked about foods that dull your mood. And I wanted to start off with that before we get to the foods that, it would be good to take in more of that. So go ahead.
So sorry, Dr. Kojo, I didn't mean to speak over you. I think one of the things we all need to take a little bit of a step back on and think about is, cleaning up our diet a little bit. No one's diet is perfect.
Right.
Mine's not perfect. None of us. But we all maybe may have picked up a habit with the stress of the pandemic. We may be leaning on foods that we know are not usually what we would like to eat. We know they may not be the healthiest choice. Let's stop there and start to slowly replace those with healthier options. So if we were to break it down, it's the added and refined sugars in food. Much of our food in the United States has a pretty high level of high fructose corn syrup in it. So we're consuming a lot more sugar than we realize. I'll come back to sugar in a moment. But then there's also the processed, ultra processed junk foods and fast foods. Fast food French fries have sugar in them and you don't taste it. But research and development has actually shown us that they are made that way to make them hyper palatable, which is why we stop at the drive through. We don't get the size small, we get the bigger size. And then, Dr. Kojo, when we get the big size, we finish it because it's meant to kind of tap into the taste buds. So that's one of the reasons I like to just give people a little bit of a caution around fast foods. Then it's the processed vegetable oils, which actually are often used in fast food restaurants because they're cheaper, and they actually are very pro-inflammatory. So they start to set up your gut for inflammation. And then it's the wrong types of fats. It's the trans fats, the hydrogenated fats. And then one that may surprise people are artificial sweeteners. Sometimes people say, I'm trying to cut back on sugar, and they go to diet soda. But many of those artificial sweeteners in the diet sodas and stuff actually worsen anxiety, can down mood. And then, relating to the salami that I mentioned on the front cover of the book is that a lot of processed meats have nitrates in them. And this type of nitrate actually can dull mood, and studies have shown that. So if your diet is a lot of deli meats and stuff like that, look for, if you go to supermarkets now, you will see meats that say nitrate free. So you can actually find them, especially in the cold cut section or where you would find salami and things like that. So just look for those and be a little cautious of them if you're heavily eating a lot of those foods. No one is saying this nutritional psychiatry plan is not about giving up foods that you love. It's about finding the balance. It's about bringing in and having a lot of foods that are healthier for you. And then, in 20% of the time, things happen. Life happens. You're working a late shift. We've all done that. We've, been hungry. We've stopped. We've gotten the wrong kind of food, but we're hungry. So it's you have to allow for that flexibility 20% of the time, and 80% of the time you're really trying to instill that lifestyle change.
And going back to the nitrate-free meats, is that something that, because I want people to see if they can make some practical tips. Is that something that you have to look for, like when you go to Kroger or the supermarket? Is it like in big letters or is it kind of like concealed?
So it's actually, I've seen it on, you have the BPA-free little plastic containers with, say, salami or any type of charcuterie meat or things like that. I've actually seen big labels on them with, say, nitrate-free or free of nitrates. Sometimes they word it that way. And I was really happy to see that because for many reasons, that's a good thing. But people may not realize that for your mood, especially, it's a good thing. So look for those, and if not, ask at your deli counter about that. People might either be able to get it in for you, or they may know about it or can order it for you. So I think that could be helpful for people to know.
Awesome, and I'm getting a question here. Somebody's asking, Nicole's asking your thoughts on keto. So as a psychiatrist and also as a chef, what are your thoughts on the keto diet?
I don't think it's a perfect diet. I think that it's really highly individual because and I'll get to keto in a second, because our gut microbiome is like a thumbprint. So I say quite often that a healthy food is not healthy for everyone because people have different responses. We know that it's a healthy food, but not everyone gets that similar feeling or response from it. When it comes to keto, there have been some case studies in certain aspects of mental illness. I think that it has to be done with caution because people also have had some not great reactions. There's a mix. It's sort of mixed. The data is mixed at the moment. In mental health, I think there's a place for it, but it has to be under the careful supervision of a doctor who helps guide you through the process. And I think that, if it works for you, by all means, follow it, but I would encourage you to also get a lot of fiber from things like fresh vegetables. So, a plant rich diet has been shown repeatedly to actually have an improvement in mental health symptoms. And it makes sense because fiber is found in those types of foods like veggies and beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, and things like that. And then try to find a balance. So, when someone comes to me with a specific diet, I'm not there to judge their diet, but I am trying to hone in on the things that make it better for your mental health.
Awesome. And I'm seeing here, I have a question, but before that, somebody's saying the link to the your book. I could go ahead and get the link. I'll drop that in there as you answer the next question. But what's the preferred way for people to buy your book? Is it Amazon or?
Support your local bookseller. Amazon is great because everyone has access to that.
Right.
It's also at many bookstores like your Barnes and Noble and others. You can also go to my website. It has links there. My website is umanaidoomd.com. And if you do visit, please subscribe to my newsletter where we're giving you the updated research every week on kind of what's new, what's current, what's happening in the world of nutritional psychiatry. So if you like this kind of work, then you might find that interesting too.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely add your website in there. And then somebody had a really good question in regards to, okay, I like this one, Carrie. And it's such a good question that I'm asking before I unload my questions. How does coffee, or more specifically 2 to 4 shots of espresso daily, affect anxiety and depression? That must be like a very specific question to Carrie.
Right. So here's the thing about coffee and caffeine. Coffee is actually rich in polyphenols, and it's actually a pretty healthy substance in moderation. It doesn't work for everyone. So some people with anxiety might even have a 1 cup of coffee and start to feel jittery and uncomfortable and anxious. Then it's really not for you. But if you can't tolerate it, studies have shown that less than 400 milligrams a day can actually be tolerated, and the research is outlined in my book. But coffees are different, so you don't always know from the number of milligrams how much you're consuming. So my guidance to you is coffee on its own. Caffeine, in coffee is okay for the body. It's actually, I'm having an Instagram live with Dr. Sanjeev Sanjeev Chopra, who is an expert in caffeine and a colleague of mine at Harvard. And we're going to be doing a live in a few weeks, and we're going to break down coffee because it's the topic of his book. So he's really done the research. But in mental health, my guidance around it is also watch what you put in your coffee, because putting a quarter cup of processed creamer and 8 teaspoons of sugar is actually going to dull your brain. So caffeine on its own, fine. Drink it in moderation. If you get jittery or feel uncomfortable, start to cut back on it, and beware of what you put in it.
Got it. And I'm trying to put your I try to drop your link in, and is okay. There we go. Perfect. The Twitch went through. So it's it's umanaidoomd.com/masterclass. Well, actually, when you type in umanaido md.com, it goes straight to that one.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
So the masterclass was in the past, but we'll be having a few masterclasses coming up. But if you navigate that page, you'll get to the home page, and you will be able to find more resources there.
Actually, I was wrong. That was not the homepage. That was not the homepage. This is the homepage.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, exactly. This has the book, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and IndieBound. Yeah. Awesome. And now my question is for people who are working at home and busy. What are some good foods that are practical? And we've talked about this before on Instagram, but for those people who aren't aware, what are the practical healthy foods?
Sure. So we want to think about foods and break them down in categories. Some of them are things like prebiotic foods, and just very simply, these foods actually feed those gut microbes that need to be taken care of. And you can find them in oats, bananas, asparagus, and several others. So prebiotics like even garlic, leeks, onions. those are really important food groups to have in your day-to-day diet. And then you want to think about fermented foods. A very large and important study was published in Cell, which is a very reputable journal. Dr. Kojo will tell you that. It was published in summer last year, and it really looked at many different things. But one of the things that came out was using and eating fermented foods actually lowers inflammation, which is huge because so many studies are showing that inflammation is the underlying factor for depression, anxiety, cognitive disorders, and more. So really dealing with inflammation, and one way to deal with it is through how you eat, is important. So fermented foods, prebiotic foods, then think about omega-3 fatty acids. You can get these in wild sockeye salmon, you can get them in sardines, anchovies. So basically fatty fish that are rich in omega-3s. If you don't consume fish, consider things like chia seeds, flax seeds, sea algae, and walnuts. All of those have the plant-based short chain omega-3s. Now, I think they are absorbed differently, so you might want to think about supplementing in some way, but it's still worth a try. And then don't forget spices. Spices like turmeric with a pinch of black pepper have a good amount of evidence for improvement of mood. So think about those. And those are just, some foods to get you started. And then, you might have heard your doctor say, eat your salad. But, it turns out it's important because those leafy greens like spinach and things like that are rich in folate, vitamin B9. B vitamins, very important for your brain, very important for your mental health. But vitamin B9, low levels of vitamin B9 or folate are associated with low mood. So having those adding those into your salads and things like that, super, super important. And always talk about the rainbow colors of veggies. The rainbow colors actually bring back plant polyphenol. So it's just an easy thing to do. Add the colors, add the greens, add the omega-3s, add in your prebiotics, add in your fermented foods. And that's just a way to get started with your nutritional psychiatry plate, as I like to call it, because you're building up on foods that are going to help you and add in those spices that are going to make a difference too.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, what is your favorite go-to meal that you can whip up, and how long does it take you to make this meal?
So one of my favorite, so Dr. Kojo, I love to take different foods and use. So I love spices. One of my great loves is spices, but I love to take foods and then kind of use an Indian spice or an Asian spice or Mexican spice to change it up and make it more flavorful. So, cauliflower, you really have to give. Cauliflower is so rich in sulforaphane, rich in fiber, low in calories. It's a great veggie, but it doesn't have that much flavor. So you've really got to flavor. So I take a cauliflower steak, and which you can cut from the whole head of cauliflower. They can do it for you at the supermarket. But what I do is I make a homemade blend of tikka masala, and I add some, some plain yogurt to it to marinate it. And using yogurt, if you eat dairy, it's actually rich in probiotics, so it's good for you. Just use a plain yogurt. And sometimes I don't use yogurt as well. Sometimes I just use a little bit of avocado oil, and then I marinate that and roast it like you would, a cauliflower steak, and have it with lots of veggies and nice salad, lots of greens. And it's one way that I get in my veggies, but I love the spices too. Awesome. And it's very quick. It's very quick and easy.
And when you say quick, is it like 30 minutes, 15?
So it's about 20 minutes. So if you, depending on the thickness of the cauliflower steak, right? You know how the cauliflower kind of looks like a brain, right? And then you slice it. So if you're doing it at home, you want to slice it to about a 1/2 inch thick. And it does crumble all over the place. If it does, just use those little bits. I'm a chef, so I don't hate to waste. Just keep those in a bag and throw them in a soup the next time you make it. And use a little bit of avocado oil, mix up the spice that you like, brush it on, put it on a sheet pan. And here's another tip, Dr. Kojo. Say you would like a piece of chicken with that, or a side of salmon, or even grilled tofu. Say you want a different sauce, or chickpeas. You can actually add these on the same sheet pan. Use parchment paper, put them in the oven about 400 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. A lot of those will cook up. With things like any form of meat, you always got to check the temperature and make sure it's cooked through. But you can add your veggies, cook it on the same sheet pan, and you have your meal in 15 to 20 minutes. The veggies will cook faster.
And you mentioned the chicken and tofu. You have them all on the same thing, or is more so like one or the other?
One or the other. So, for example, someone in my family may want a piece of chicken. And so I might put cauliflower steak with chicken, and I might add an extra veggie on, because the more plants you add to your diet, the different colors, the different textures, the added fiber, all adding biodiversity to your gut. So I like broccoli, for example. And so you can put those, but say you're vegan, you can put tofu, and a good source of non-GMO organic tofu as your protein. So you can play at, if you like all of those, you can do all of them on the same sheet pan. You just have to make sure that the meat or the seafood is cooked through. So I would say cauliflower steak, maybe another veggie and a salmon steak, or cauliflower steak and your chicken breast, something like that. And you can do it in one, and cleanup is easy, because if you use parchment paper, all you do is you serve your food and you throw out the parchment paper and quickly wash the pan, you're done. So it's quick and easy for people who are busy like you and me.
Yeah, I like that. I was up with you until the tofu. I never got the taste for tofu. I don't know why.
Right, that's where spices really help, and I agree. Tofu
okay, I never tried that.
It's hard to flavor it, but you just have to up the spices, make a little bit of a marinade with something like a little bit of avocado oil, brush it on, and let it crisp up a little bit in the oven. But if that's not to your taste, another great one, say you want to add more veggies, but you don't eat tofu, chickpeas. There's an easy one. Chickpeas,
I like chickpeas over tofu. Okay.
Right, with flavors. So go with something you like. Don't go out and buy tofu and you won't like it. You don't want to eat it. Choose veggies or the meats that you like, or the seafood that you like, and work it out that way.
Right, and I'm happy you brought that up, because when I was talking to you the first time on Instagram and I was looking at the book, I actually saw like practical things that I could see myself eating. So I think it's important that people can actually eat what they want. I mean, granted, right? That it is also healthy at the same time. And I think that's one thing that going in, before I met you, my brain did not register the fact that I could eat something that is healthy and I actually enjoy. What are some other misconceptions that you think people have about, eating this type of, having this lifestyle where you're using nutritional psychiatry and you're putting good things in your body? Because a lot of times people say, oh, this is boring, or it costs too much money to shop and get organic food.
Right.
But what are some of the misconceptions that you would say people have about nutritional psychiatry?
So a great question, Dr. Kojo. A lot of the time people think that it's unaffordable, or I'm only talking about organic foods and you can't, and I'm not going to be able to eat it or afford it. But let's think about it for a second. I know not everyone has the same level of access, but there are a couple of tips here, right? There are lists that you can Google on your phone by the Environmental Working Group. They have the Dirty Dozen, foods that you really want to try to get organic, and they have the Clean 15. Foods that you don't have to get organic every single time. So watch to see what's on sale in your supermarket. Balance it up. For example, strawberry is really great source of berries for your brain health, but they're often on that Dirty Dozen list. So maybe get them organic and frozen, because you can buy them bulk for less money and it'll last longer. Another tip, load up on those leafy greens. They're not usually expensive. Great source of fiber, great source of folate. Get those colors of veggies if you can. Another great brain nutrient, because of this. These are full of plant polyphenols. Great for your brain. The center aisles, usually have the cookies and the cereals and stuff, but go for the legumes, the lentils, the chickpeas, but also canned salmon, canned oysters, canned mussels, super rich in things like zinc and other nutrients, great for your brain. So you don't have to necessarily splurge on the very expensive side of salmon. You can get it canned, but you can also get legumes and lentils and things like that, which are also great, rich in fiber and great for your gut. And then, the foods that in this country are flash frozen. So you can get like frozen cauliflower, frozen broccoli, frozen berries. And unless they have, you want to avoid any added sauce, sugar, sodium, or sugar, then, they're pretty easy to use and add to meals. So those are some of the ways to think about, balancing your budget. Eggs are super nutrient dense if you eat eggs, but try to get pastured eggs from cage-free chickens if you can. And if you can't, you are still making a great choice by eating a whole food over processed food. So if it's still outside of your budget, I really respect that. But at least moving away from the fast food, ultra processed kind of foods that that you had been leaning on a lot, and moving towards just a whole healthy food is a better choice, and you head in a better direction.
Right. No, I definitely agree, and I'm happy you mentioned that about the budget because, of course, we know. I mean, if you have more access, you can get more things, but
Yeah,
there's still hope for people who may not have the biggest budget to work with. And I'm happy
you
that
can still try.
you touched on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And another misconception is that people feel like, food is only about their waistline. And,
Mm,
if they eat a certain way, they're going to gain weight, or they're worried appropriately about family history of type 2 diabetes. But food also affects your brain. And I would argue that the brain is the most important organ, because without the brain
I agree.
functioning, the rest of our body does not function.
Right.
So we've got to learn that we need to take care of our brain. And by doing that, we can actually improve how we're feeling. This has been a rough time for people.
Yeah.
And you and I work in a profession where some scary things happen. So the
Mhm.
more tools we have to improve how we're feeling, to lower the anxiety, to help our mood, the better we're gonna feel overall.
That's awesome. And I know it's almost been 30 minutes, but I have one really good question that somebody asked.
Sure,
I think this can
sure.
provide a lot of value to people. Um, this is a tough one. Do you have any tips for incorporating these changes for kids?
Absolutely. So here's the thing with children. Children learn from adults. They learn from their parents usually, or whoever the adults in their lives are. Um, and they are influenced. They are easily influenced by what they see. So I would say that incorporating and having children involved in food preparation, choosing the food from farmers
Mm,
markets or the supermarket, learning the colors, playing with the textures, being involved, becomes part of how they think. So they see healthy whole foods being purchased somewhere, and then they see them at home. Have them help you prepare veggies. Obviously not with a knife, but something easy that they can do, so that they understand what whole foods are and what you're trying to convey to them. The the developing brain in children is extremely important. So the more that they can be leaning on healthier whole foods, more nutrient dense foods, and I'm not talking about expensive foods. I'm talking about veggies. I'm talking about beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, good
mhm.
sources of poultry, seafood, beef, whatever it is that you eat in your diet. Really good clean sources, if you can, um, are going to help them. And teaching them little things like, they don't have to always reach for candy. They actually can have a piece of fruit. They
Right.
can, they don't have to drink juices. They can actually have water with fresh berries in it, or water with a squeeze of an actual orange in it, so that it's fresh, it's natural. It's something that you're trying to get their palates used to something different. Same thing with fermented foods. They may not like fermented foods, but you might slowly start to offer them a little bit to see if they might like it. And it's all on a continuum. Kids are fussy; they may not want to do it, but it's about helping, teaching them. Another tip I have on that, Dr. Kojo, is kids love ice cream. In chapter 11 of my book, I have recipes, and one of the recipes is ice cream made from bananas, and you can even make a chocolate flavor by using nutrient dense, brain rich cacao. So just raw natural cacao brings in those flavonols to your brain, and you can make that chocolate flavored. So there are always ways to sort of think out of the box to come up with something that child may like, your family might like, and still make it delicious. So don't think that because it's a healthy food it has to taste terrible, because I would be very upset at that myself.
Right. No, that's a fantastic answer. It's a difficult question because sometimes, like we're competing with Dr. Uma's recommendations versus what you see on TV, the brightly colored cereals and all like
Yeah,
this. It's hard to go up against that, but you given
right.
practical tips on how to get
And
your kids started.
can I say one other thing about that, Dr. Kojo?
Sure.
Because you make a really important point about cereals. A lot of I had this happen once with a patient. She said to me, Dr. Naidoo, you told me whole grains are really important for the gut." And I say healthy whole grains because I'm talking about quinoa and barley and steel cut oats and things like that, and farro. So she saw whole wheat on the cereal box, and her child was eating it. And so
Uh,
it was a moment to kind of work with her to say, I know I said that, but let's look at this box.
Right.
And the last, the very last ingredient was the whole grain, because around food labeling laws, you got to be really savvy, because often it's loaded with sugar. So, try to just try to be aware of that. And words like natural on food labels, look for the added sugar. Try to make sure that you keeping that on the low side. None of us are perfect, but the more we can advocate for ourselves, and the more we know, the better choices we can make.
Right. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. I know it's getting late out there on the East Coast, so I'll let you go as we wrap up the show. But thank you so much, Dr. Naidoo.
Thanks,
And
Dr.
can you
Kojo.
let us know where we can find you online, like your Instagram
Yes.
and
Yes. So my Instagram is at DRUMANAIDOO. That's at Dr. Uma Naidoo. And my website is umanaidoomd.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter, where you'll get all my updates and what I'm up to.
Naidoo.com. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I will I pinned it right here, so I'll let people go ahead and get that, and then I'll allow you to have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Dr. Kojo. Take care. Talk to you
All
soon.
right, take care. I
Bye.
appreciate you.
Bye.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great to have Dr. Naidoo on. I learned a lot, from her the first time around, and also this time. And I think it's important when you're talking about kids. You have to give kids practical tips, and adults also. We lead the way. So I'm just so excited that we had her on to talk about this book. I think it's fantastic. I'm looking through the comments, and Gator Johnson, thank you for the valuable information. I appreciate you. I want you all to know that this live will be saved. All of the lives will be saved. So just keep that in mind. All the lives will be saved. So you can go back and you can watch the playback. Brianna says, thank you. Chris, thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And a lot, I appreciate you. I appreciate that. And Myra says, excited to follow. Myra is how you say it. Must be new, but I appreciate you being like a part of my community. I think that's super exciting. And yes, this book, and just once more in the book, like reading through the book, foods that could make schizophrenia worse, foods that could lower your mood, trauma in your gut. Page 82. Most of us suffer some kind of trauma in our lives. The death of a loved one, a natural disaster, a sexual assault, or a difficult breakup may all take their tolls in our lives. Whether the damage stems from a single event or unfolds over time, traumatized individuals are at risk for PTSD, right? So she talks about PTSD, and then she goes to talk about PTSD and, your gut and how foods like interact and affect, with your mental health. And that's very important. And this is stuff that, for me personally, I'm not an expert when it comes to nutritional psychiatry. So like I'm learning along with you all because I have spent my time, trying to learn the standard psychiatry. And while I've been doing that, I've been doing a whole lot of DoorDash, a whole lot of, just eating. And fortunately, I have like a high metabolism, but it's still not good for me. So I've been on my own learning journey as well. And I've been learning so much. So definitely, go check out this book. This is Your Brain on Food. It's a really, really good book. And Ashley, Mickey Ficky, Ashley, that's a good question right here. Any feel good foods? So I like there's a restaurant in LA called Healthica, and I'll get like a wheat wrap, and they'll have chicken, they'll have avocados, and it's non-processed. Also, they'll have like this wild rice salad. It slaps. It's so good. And then they have like chopped chicken. It's grilled. I'll get that as a side. And then they have this cookie. It's called the Cookie, and it's funny because I have no affiliation with this restaurant. I just like their food. But they have this cookie, it's like a vegan cookie. This cookie right here is so good. It's called the Cookie. This cookie is, oh my gosh, Ashley, you gotta try this cookie. You gotta try this cookie. This is a good cookie. It's a really good cookie. Whitney P, I appreciate you. I'm happy that I'm able to, educate you. And for those people who are living with trauma and PTSD, keep going. That's the whole point of this platform, to give you all the tools that you need to advocate for yourself, right? So we're getting to that point where It's almost time to end the live, but we cannot end the live without doing one thing. For my people who watch every night, you know what time it is. Can somebody in the comments section drop what time it is? You all know what time it is. Where's Leilani? Where's Leilani? Where's Leilani? Oh, please show the oh, right here. This is the book, y'all. This is your bring out food. And Katie, that store is closed, but I wish I could go get the cookie. The cookie is Beth knows what time it is. It's water time. It is water time, y'all. So I'm gonna give you all some maybe 10-15 seconds to go ahead and get your water. So it's water time. Do you check your YouTube comments or your live streams? Yeah, they should pop up here, along with all the Facebook ones. I do need more water. I'm running out. Alicia, I appreciate you. I love the new Leilani, I appreciate that. Let me talk about that for a second. I love that you're so transparent with us in your own journey. I especially love the new vlogs you've been doing because it has a genuine feel to it. So many people put a face in front of the camera, and I feel that you really are raw and genuine anytime you film. Leilani, I appreciate that. And you all check out the vlogs that I've been doing. I think it's a fun way to show, what I'm actually doing in my life. Because I'm giving y'all these tips, but I'm living my life too. And I'm doing some amazing things. And I'm also messing up. And then I'm waking up late sometimes. And I'm having embarrassing moments. And I'm having great moments. So just capture it on camera. I think that's super dope. And I'm happy that I get to do that for you. I want to keep vlogging because it's something that I can go back and look at in 2-3 years and be like, oh, that was amazing when I was, when I first got started on Facebook, this and that. So yeah, I really enjoy the vlogs, and I appreciate you all's attention. It means a lot to me. So Leilani, thank you for taking note of that, right? And Meg, if you're drinking wine, that's cool. I'm looking at Meg saying that she's drinking. Cool, that's fine. Well, whatever y'all drinking, that's fine. I'm drinking water, but whatever y'all sipping on, that's fine. So, have a water break, guys. It's about that time. Cheers. Water break. We need it. Asia, I appreciate you. I'm happy I came at the right time. Shout out to the algorithms that placed my videos on your feed. Cheers, y'all. Cheers. This ball is about done. And I don't know if you all were paying attention, but during the stream, you should have heard a doorbell go off. That was the Instacart people. And I ordered a whole lot of water and a couple other things. So I'm stocking up on water again because I was running out. So, all right. I gotta get out because I gotta hit the gym and I have to prepare for a trip tomorrow. I gotta head to Austin for South by Southwest. I'm gonna go collaborate with a couple other creators and or learn from creators, figure out how I can make my content better for you all. Whether it's more of the acting, more of the skits, more of the music, I will figure out how to make this thing, fun on both ends for me and for the content to be beneficial for y'all. So I'm out, and I will see you all later. Peace.